Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. I would like to continue this discussion on 5 principles in transformative 21st century teaching. Alright, we finish discussing 2 principles pertaining to transformative 21st century teaching. We arrive to the third point with the affordance, according to Dr. Bill Cope and Dr. Mary, about the multimodal meaning and the utilization of media. According to both of them, learners more on mastery rather than consumers of technology. What does it mean by consumers of technology? Meaning, instead of they, as a user, consume and using the technology, they are more regarded as the producer and the designer or maker in the future years. With regard to technology. So the main concept of multimodal meaning, they have to master all this technology at the back of their hands and using it for the benefit of learning. For example, we have a digital media, link text, diagram, tables, data set, video documentation, audio recording, and other social medias are the prominent technological advancement or technological tools that they have to master it in order to produce the knowledge in their time. We can see a lot of examples and a lot of digital media have been used for the benefits of either it is political related or news. But how does this digital production skills have benefited learning context or education context in Malaysia? Let's take, for example, our own radio. The usage of our own radio and television during the pandemic, during the PKP 1, 2 and 3, we have not seen much improvement in terms of learning materials as far as our official government media producers. What more that I can say from being available, the availability of those digital production or digital media materials can be accessed by our students. What more can I say if it is related to their own creation of this kind of materials, meaning they have to use it on the for themselves, for the benefit of themselves, as far as education is concerned. So we can see some of the limitations that have been set by our culture, which really give a setback to our future generation on how they can able to produce their own kind of knowledge, as we already entering the digital state, digital era or information technology era, and whatnot, the advancement of the technology in the future. So we can see next point, which is related to the knowledge representation, which are supported and enhanced today by digital production skills and technologies. Okay, as a result, knowledge is no longer being interpreted as something that is outside of access from this generation, but rather it being developed as a real-time supporting tools, and it will enhance the education it will enhance the understanding of the acquiring of knowledge by using it for the advantage of learners. Let's go to the recursive feedback, okay, which is the principles number 4, and it stress on the why does we provide feedbacks and what does it do to the future learners, to the 21st century learners, and why does it matters. Feedback is no longer a one-way kind of feedbacks that have been given to the students when we compare it with the traditional education. This is with regard to the multiple sources and perspective of feedbacks that they will get throughout their learning experience within the cloud access that they have, the vast information data, and they can experience a much richer kind of feedback that they can get from their peers. Okay, it is real time, it's simultaneous, it goes back and forth to them, and it will have the impact on the growth, okay, rather than just a summary of achievement that they get at the end of the semester or at the end of the year of their study. So we can see the recursive feedback will produce more on the growth, and it is progressive. Okay, it is constantly being given by their own peers, by their own communities or the digital ecologies that they experience, that they're going to have it instead of just one-way kind of feedbacks that they get from their teachers. So all these kind of recursive feedbacks is going to stimulate their growth, and therefore they have to be they have to be ready in order to be able to contribute, to collaborate, to communicate, and to be to join the conversation inside their ecologies. Next, we will see the feedback that is no longer on the constitutive side. What does it mean by constitutive? Meaning, okay, next we will go and look at the two different kind of perspective that offers feedbacks in the real sense in digital ecologies. The author said about two different things. Okay, we used to have a retrospective feedback, which what we can improve our learning or our result in the past, rather than being focusing on the future. So instead of having retrospective feedbacks, we are supposed to encourage to give constitutive feedbacks rather than retrospective. What do I mean by constitutive? Is about the future. Okay, what they can do to improve their habit. What can they do to improve their learning, to improve their kind of acquiring the knowledge when the feedback is being given to them in just on the past. Okay, it's supposed to be both on the past and the future, right? So moving on to the next point, which is on the no more on routine memories at the end of learning, right? But rather than constantly improving across lessons, they will have kind of a repetition on the feedback that they get from their instructors or facilitators, and therefore they can improve their learning experiences. And it's always being constant, and it always being a reciprocal process. Instead of just at the end of the day they will get the result, they will have a come and go kind of interaction, not only by their teachers or by their instructors, but with the other colleagues that they get, okay, from the social media, from the comments that they made, from the feedbacks that they obtain by giving or sharing their knowledge or their information. Furthermore, we can see more on Socratic dialogue is welcome again in 21st century through various kind of discourse. Okay, what does the author mean by Socratic dialogue is it's kind of interaction that inculcate thinking, okay, instead of just spoon feeding the students with the facts and data, right? Socratic dialogue used to be famous in the ancient times of Greek, whereby they experience this kind of intellectual discourse between the students and the teachers to inculcate thinking, critical thinking, and it's an ongoing discovery throughout the discussion, in-depth discussion, and by getting it, they will try to understand the subject matter more clearer and more meaningful, instead of just receiving it passively. So in 21st century, Socratic still relevant, and it will become more interesting and more crucial for us to use it, instead of just giving them knowledge and spoon feeding them with the information, right? So next, let's go to the collaborative intelligence. Okay, Dr. Bill Cope and Dr. Mary intend to bring the discussion into what does social networking do, and what does social networking have an impact in digital ecology. Okay, through the social networking, through the social interaction in digital ecology, they have another kind of collaboration that they can formulate with their peers and their friends, or across experts in various kind of fields that deal with the subject that they are learning. Alright, so this kind of collaboration is really changing the dynamics of learning, and it offers more constant feedback and more peers interaction rather than just your own soul and your own self dealing with the subjects, okay, with the teaching. So learners will encounter a lot of collaborative culture instead of competitive culture. Okay, instead of who's going to be the number one, it will stimulate that we can be there together and we can excel together, and therefore we have to produce and co-produce a kind of culture in the digital ecology. So Dr. Bill Cope and Dr. Mary really emphasize on what does collaborative intelligence brings an impact to the learners in terms of extending the knowledge depth and the knowledge discovery in more rapid means. Okay, so the next thing that we have to ensure that these learners are having is about the collaboration and the negotiation skills with their peers, with their friends, with their enemies, maybe, or maybe because of with their competitors. Instead of compete with each other, they have to collaborate with each other, and each of them will be an expert in their own field, and they have to share the information in order to develop more on the subject that they are studying. Right? This is because the knowledge resources will become more available and diverse, as well as open, and no one will be the all-knower and correct at all time, and therefore they have to welcome any ideas, any conflicting opinions in order for them to collaborate and to learn a new culture for their own benefits. So it focuses on learning as a social activity rather than learning as individual memory. Instead of you learning by your own self, how do you remember things, how do you successfully recall whatever information that you have input in your brain, okay, you and your own, it will become a social activity, and you will have to rely on others in order for to further your understanding towards the subject. So instead of bersaing, ataupun we call it dengki, between one success to another, we have to collaborate, we have to communicate, we have to negotiate in order for the students to learn better. Okay, now I present to you the 5 instructional software that is really recommended by the book in integrating technology in education, published by Pearson Education. You can see here, number 1 is about drill and practice, brain pop. You can see users can work problems or answer questions and get feedback on correctness, and it is a directed teaching strategy. Okay. Number 2 is on the basic circuit challenge tutorial that acts like a human tutor by providing all the information and instructional activities a learner needs to master a topic. Okay, so the information summaries, the explanation, the practice routines, feedbacks and assessment, all these will be provided, and it's still under the directed teaching strategy.